offering all kinds of medical services, dental services, and it's just something really good for our county, and it's really good for the region. All you gotta do is get there and they'll treat you, and it's just a great program, so it's going well, and if any of you have the opportunity to stop by, that'd be awesome. If you could stop by and just see us right here at Belleville Summit. That's it, Rick.
Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I was just wondering, how Melissa Penn got promoted to a position that doesn't exist?
It's just a title change just for now.
Just, that's all it is?
Correct.
So she did.
So numbers and comp will come before the budget committee.
Huh?
The numbers and comp, it'll come back before the budget committee for a title change only.
What if the budget committees or the Quorum court says no to that?
To the title change?
Well, yeah,
I would hope that they wouldn't.
what if?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
I thought all job descriptions, all titles have to have a job description, but there one for that.
It's just going to put deputy OEM before the
But
911
it's a title
mapping.
change,
Correct.
a job description change.
No, yes. But there's been no money change whatsoever in hourly.
Did her responsibilities, did any of her responsibilities?
No,
change?
nothing from what she's already doing, no.
It was just added.
Correct.
It's my I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
it's my understanding in the personnel manual, all job titles have to have a job description. It's got to come before an ordinance to get added to the number of comp positions.
I agree.
Did we get an ordinance on that?
No, I have not presented it yet. It was brought to my attention after the interview had already taken place. So we'll be presenting it next month as a title change only.
Just so you know, that was my fault. I used the wrong terminology. It shouldn't have said that. I made a mistake. I accept responsibility for that. I shouldn't have, her job, she's doing everything she is doing. Nothing's any different, and I used the wrong terminology.
And I'll present it next month.
Can I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Jim, I can accept that. What's come to light this year, and it's gonna really blow up, and someone's gonna be upset, is numbers and comps are changing without an ordinance. I'm not naming names. If you don't have an ordinance, we're gonna have you go back and rescind that. No, not you, personally. You know that, John. You have to have an ordinance and present to us with a salary and a job description. And you don't, don't take this personally, it's not. We create a job, put a person in a position, and nothing's changed. We don't even know that position is there, and we're sitting there saying, our numbers and comps are wrong, how they get wrong? We've got to start following the guidelines for the procedures on positions and money, because if it doesn't, I'm telling you, there's gonna be some trouble. You know,
I understand that, and
I agree.
I made the mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I got over my ski tips, and I was wrong. And I should have explained it better. And I had some personal things. I was out of the office. I had to correct this. I'm the one responsible.
I want to apologize to you. I'm not personally.
Well, I understand.
I'm not you. It seems that, I've said this, we seem to operate without the correct procedures in operation. And not you personally, I can name other people. So I don't, you brought the subject up, that's why I'm addressing to a different body.
No, I understand that, but I just want you to
And I'll
know.
apologize to you because it's not meant to you.
No, I understand.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
You put it out on Facebook.
Yeah, I took that down too. I made a mistake. So I don't want what more I can tell you. I made a mistake and I was wrong. So there's nothing else I can do. I did it. I'm sorry I did it. That wasn't my intention.
And I'll be bringing the ordinance through next month.
Thank you.
A motion to accept the OEM report?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to accept. All those for? Against? E911 report is as submitted. Any questions? Motion to accept.
Is she here?
I said it's as presented. Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I have asked for the last 6 months for a detailed report.
Did-
As in the report, are you talking about 911?
Did you guys speak on the phone?
We did, and she was gonna talk to you, and then she was gonna send me a report.
Is this
We're
one?
waiting on that report. No, that is not.
Okay. I thought the added fire rescue and separating it from law enforcement is what was being asked for.
The fire department presents their report.
I meant from the 911 calls on fire rescue. Do you have the June in yours or just the May? The May was
I
put.
have both of them.
Okay, good. June shows the 215 for fire rescue and the 505 for law enforcement.
No, she called me the very next day, and we had a really nice conversation,
Good.
and left it, she was going to talk to you, and then give me that information. And I have.
And this is not what you requested.
No, it is not.
Any more questions? Motion to accept? Second?
Second.
I got a motion and a second to accept the 911 report. All those for? Against?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Grant report.
The only thing I can add is that I'm getting more of the ARPA recipients are bringing me their receipts and information, and we're taking care of that.
All right. Yes, ma'am.
It is not the part of the meeting, I apologize. I received a thank you card, that's addressed to, I'd like to read it if it's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
This is Commissioner Archimedes. Marion County Quorum Court Justices and Judge Stout. As a member of the Marion County Nursing Home Auxiliary, we thank you for the money awarded to our organization from the ARPA funds. These funds will help us to eliminate some of our operational costs and increase the financial support we will be able to give to groups in Marion County. Your full approval of our application and is tangible demonstration of your support of our mission, and we appreciate that support very, very much. And signed by Kathy Bailey, President.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Motion to accept grant report. I get a second? I got a motion and a second to accept. All those for?
Aye.
Against? Law enforcement report.
Law enforcement report, let's talk about the detention center first. Detention center, we have a total of 71 bookings this month. 52 are total, or the total that are in the detention center today. We collected for circuit court collections, $9,093. For circuit court restitutions, we collected $5,445. The district court collections is $8,100. We had a total of 83 warrants issued. We've had 34 hours of court time for bailiff, and total time for combined courts for bailiff, which is circuit and municipal court, is 44 hours. We've got a total hours of transport for the month. We sent 2 people to Pennsylvania and picked up an inmate, and so that added to the 101 hours and 42 minutes driving to Pennsylvania and back. We still have 77 sex offenders in the county. 24 of them have been updated. The others should be updated soon. The average daily population of the jail was 56, and the high point was 61, and the low point was 51. The profit for commissary to the detention center was $2,356. Number of meals served was 5,040. The total cost of the meals for us was $6,128.71, which the average cost of the meal is up this month from the $1.16 last month to $1.22 this month. But you can equate that to there's more days that in this month here was last. So it's a headache. But the Department of Corrections, we received $20,920 for the state inmates that we had housed. The deputies drove a total of 21,548 miles. They used 1,460 gallons of fuel for an average of the miles per gallon is somewhere around 14.76 miles per gallon for the outside lying areas out in the county. The Metro Division drove a total of 6,233 miles. They used a total of 391 gallons, and their miles per gallon was 15.9. So we're doing pretty well. Any questions?
Motion.
I got a motion to accept all those four.
Aye.
Against? Library report. Fair board report. All right, road report. We had 46 roads last month. Doing a lot of pothole patching right now on the paved roads that we do have. We're installing culverts in trouble spots, cleaning out culverts that have been blocked for years. Doing bridge work to get us back up to an A and B rating before a C rating is given to us by the state. We're side arming, bush hogging paved roads, and we've hauled 252 loads of material. Any questions? Motion to accept?
Motion.
I got a motion and a second to accept. All those four? Against? Quorum report, 530 man hours, 16 days of work. Loads 252. Tons 4,536. Total tonnage crushed 5,187. Tonnage out 4,536. You'll see a difference for the next few months of what is being crushed as well as being taken out. Because I'm going to raise what we have on stock because we had some incidences with some loaders come up that are older that are getting work done to them. And if it comes down that both are broke down at the same time, I would like to have 20 ton sitting aside waiting so we can keep moving forward while we get those fixed. So those numbers will be a little different going forward. Any questions?
Motion.
I got a motion and a second to accept all those four.
Aye.
Against? Solid waste report. Monthly count 2407, year to date 12,717. What was sent to the landfill was 72.49 tons, year to date 440.27 tons. Recyclables, the OCC, we got 18.4 tons, 127.25 tons year to date. Metals 3.18 tons, 33.86 tons to date. Year to date total 176.71 tons recycled. Any questions?
Motion.
I got a motion and a second. All those four?
Aye.
Against? Fire chief's report.
I'm assuming you got it, but I want to give you an update on our towers. We've got power to all 3 tower sites. That was done last week. So we're moving forward on that.
All right.
So we're going to start going pretty soon.
That is good news.
Motion. Second.
I got a motion and a second to accept all those four.
Aye.
Against? Anybody from the planning commission?
Planning Commission has nothing to report at this time.
Thank you, sir. Budget committee meeting minutes.
The budget committee meeting from January 29th, the minutes are in the packet.
Motion check.
I got a motion and a second to accept all those four.
Aye.
Against? I don't believe we had a personnel. Do we have the procedures? Procedures and Management Committee meeting minutes? All right,
Motion to accept.
we got a motion and a second. All those for? Against? Any old business? All right, we'll scoot right on into new business. Ms. Dawn.
First ordinance up is appropriation ordinance number 23-70. Being handled by, enacted by the Quorum Court of Marion County, Arkansas, and ordered to change by the order to amend Marion County ordinance 2298, identified as the Marion County budget to appropriate additional funds to Burns University. There is a current Marion County budget for $21,100, and whereas this, during this year so far, Marion County has expended $19,635.54 from Burns University, receiving a current balance of $1,464.46. And whereas Marion County will have at least 3 more, possibly 4 more jury trials this year necessitating the need for additional funds. Therefore, it is requested by the circuit clerk and the office of the prosecuting attorney to appropriate additional funds to return the efficient administration of justice. Article 1, appropriate funds from the county general fund account 1,000 to account 1,405 from county general fund 1,000 amount 25,000 to jury and permanent fund 1,405 amount 25,000. Article 2, all county employees and elected officials involved in shall prepare all documentation necessary to effectuate the transfer of appropriation described above. Article 3, this ordinance is enacted by the as an appropriation ordinance is effective immediately.
Motion.
I didn't hear the second, I'm sorry. With all your backs to me, you're gonna have to speak up a little bit so I can hear.
You got a second.
Discussion? Justice Scrima?
Yes.
Justice Nichols?
Yes.
Justice Van Kuren?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
Justice Hutchins?
Yes.
Justice Shipman?
Yes.
Justice Brigham? Yes. Justice McCullough?
Yes.
Thank you.
With 19 ordinances on the docket tonight, I would entertain a motion to read by title only. Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a first and a second to read by title only. All those for?
Aye.
Against? All right, Ms. Dawn.
Ordinance 2371, this is amending the operating budget for the office of the Marion County Circuit Clerk, numbers and compensation ordinance. 2022-98 annual budget. This amendment is for a raise increase for my increase.
Motion.
Second.
Second, please.
At the last budget meeting, Don had asked, why we voted the way we did last time. And the paper came out with an article at the same time, so I thought I'd clear a few things up. I had two problems with this ordinance. I talked about one of them at the budget meeting, and that's the fact that it gives us raised out to put per people above the minimum. There's either higher paid people in the town. But the second one, I didn't talk about, the second reason. The second reason is because out of the 27 Class 2 counties, we're one of the very few that have a combined clerk and recorder office. Both the recorder's office and the clerk's office have a secondary fund that comes in that they collect. The wording of both funds are almost identical. And I believe at this point that those two funds are being, not being handled properly. I believe it's got $275,000. If I read the law right, I'm not sure I do, but if I read it right, those funds cover electricity, telephones, room, rent, coffee in the morning, whatever usage it is in that room, those funds are supposed to go to it from both sides. And right now, it looks to me like what it's just down to one. It's down to being used as a set to bring wages in for 2 girls, and that's about it. But at this point, I'm still waiting for an answer from the treasurer and the collector's office. So we're working on it. Thank you.
Justice Nichols,
Yes.
Justice Quorum,
No.
Justice White,
No,
Justice Hutchings,
Yes.
Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham,
No.
Justice McCall.
No,
Motion passed. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I realize I look terrible over here. Can I get a vote?
Oh, Justice McCall, I'm sorry.
No,
I am so sorry.
that's all right.
I didn't do that. This was me.
Thank you.
Now, my agenda shows that the next ordinance is the amended budget.
Yes.
What, I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
I don't have it.
Is it not in the packet? Just in the side?
It's own individual.
It's its own individual, the amended budget. It's not in the packet because of the size of it. You got yours?
Yes, sir.
All right.
$5,000?
No, the amended budget,
Amended budget.
23 budget. That was handed out, emailed.
Okay. This ordinance is 2372.
Oh. Okay, I got that.
Is this owned separate because of the size of it? Okay.
This ordinance is 2372, and this ordinance is amending the operating budget and numbers and compensation 2298, which updates changes in projected revenue and expenditures.
This one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I didn't hear a motion.
There you go.
No motion? All right, again, I will,
Leslie made the motion.
Second.
Hutchings has a second. And just for discussion, I'll just start off with saying that we were asked to do this by the State Legislative Audit of Arkansas and by council. All right. Mr. Scrimmon?
Can I get, is there something we got in writing from the auditor stating that?
In writing?
Yes, sir.
No, but they told it to me my face in my office.
Can we get, can we get something, the reason why I'm asking that question,
Please tell me why you're asking that question.
I'm asking the question because in March, we had, there was a problem we heard with the current budget, with funds from the current year 23 being paid against expenses for 22,
Yes, sir.
and we're gonna get an updated budget. And now we're getting a whole new budget.
Hmm.
The budget that was passed on December 13th is a valid budget.
Yes, sir.
There was only 4 departments, I won't say for one, that we did not get cooperation, and we did go back to last year's budget for that department. That's
Correct.
the only one. And what concerns me about the new budget, I see a $500,000 increase in revenue over what was passed in December. And I'm concerned because we had no input to this, but we're being asked to approve it. I'm not comfortable approving anything right now. Because what I'm seeing is something's going on, don't misunderstand that statement, that we now have asked for the budget we passed in 2013, or the December 13th, we can just reprint it. And it was not, no offense to the controller, not gonna get into what happened out there. But we're sitting here in December, it's 7 months later, and we wanna spend money. And if you read all the articles, the recommendations for budgeting, the controller mentioned he used last year's actuals. They always recommend 5 years of budget information, and that's what we've been using.
Correct.
We got our input from the treasurer. At the time, the treasurer, and I was very comfortable with that. I'm very uncomfortable now with an increase in the budget of 500,000, but we're gonna approve it. We had no input to it all. I'm
Okay, well, I'll rebuttal with that. It's been presented more than once in the last 2 months, so you've seen the numbers. Two, I've heard from the majority of you that you don't trust the numbers from last year or the year before, so why would I go back 5 if we don't trust the last 2? And secondly, I'll let my comptroller speak on the $500,000. Go ahead, sir.
Just for clarification and education, at the last budget meeting, that valid point was brought up, and I said I would return it back to the $920,000 in terms of revenue. So what you have there has the original numbers. I did not change revenue at all. What you see now, and the difference is the carryover. And I actually have those numbers. I did not scrape these numbers off the wall. These are numbers from the actual revenue at the end of the year, minus $168,000, which would account for the claims. Okay, so that's basically all we did. We didn't change anything in terms of appropriations, unless, of course, the sheriff's department and his things. I left that part. The only thing I did was change the carryover to reflect actual revenue at the end of the year minus the claims. That's all that was done, and it was done purely to get us to a point where we understand a little better our starting point. As far as revenues go, we discussed that next week. That's all that was done. There was nothing else.
Thank you, sir.
The budget that was passed on December 13th had, there's only 4 departments that weren't included in the final updated budget figures. And we were there to solve those issues so we could get the budget approved. The budget that was passed is a good budget.
Yes.
It's being implied that it's not a good budget. And we used the data we were using. I'm confident in the records we got from the revenue. Some could say she might have been conservative. Better say a little bit conservative than all of a sudden be in trouble.
I agree with that.
But the problem is, and no offense, a new position is being taken over, and now we're redoing. It appears to me, I'm not comfortable voting for something that we had the prior budget committee put together a realistic budget to keep us afloat, and we've been concerned ever since we had problems 2 years ago. And so I'm concerned about approving. I really let the group that put it together approve it. I'm gonna sign off on it, and I think everything's fine, and I'm not comfortable
All right.
with the way we're doing business right now. I'm not comfortable at all.
I mean, this is not the first time it's been presented. I mean, we've had opportunity to go through, and Van Kuren did stand up in March and say that we were in a good spot with the budget from before, and he took time for a whole week to go through. We were just asked to amend a few things and present a new working budget by the state of Arkansas. So I'm presenting it this one time today, and we've discussed this for 2 months, and we can go forward from there. Yes, sir.
I'm a little confused on the budget because I went through it after I talked to you on the phone, and there was 2 sheets in there for the sheriff's department.
Okay.
One was very similar to what we passed in our budget, and then one gave raises. to
In
this
this,
year.
in this new budget right now.
And it, well, I don't know in this one because I'm flipping through this and this is much different than what I actually looked through.
Okay.
What I looked through was the one where it had all the numbers and it was in that binder. And in that one, it had raises for the sheriff's department and in the jail. And the revenues were increased in that one, the best I could tell. I don't want to tell anybody else that they're wrong or anything, but it looked to me like revenues had been raised. And it looked like the carryover from the year before had been budgeted into this year's budget. And I've stood up, I'm not even gonna hit it again. I've stood up so many times and said, you can't do this. I think that based on what I looked on the last one, I think that it would be dangerous to.
We had to, if you allow me, we had to put the carryover into this one because there wasn't a cleanup ordinance in February. So it has to be accounted for. Now in the 24 budget, no, you will not use carryover to put into a budget. You can't, I agree with you, but we have to right now because it was never cleaned up in February.
Okay, so when I looked at that other one in that 3-ring binder, it showed an expansion of the spending in the jail and law enforcement. But there's not been there's not actually been any revenue generated. Like there hasn't been another Walmart bill that raised more taxes.
Correct.
The money came from carryover, the best I could tell. And that will work for a year or maybe 2 years. But when you budget carryover and we raise revenues, I would say that budget actually does two things. It put carryover in the spending, for spending in that year, and it raised the revenue that it was going to receive from taxes. So if we have an existing taxes, say 100%, we've been budgeting 80%, we raise another 10%, that 10% comes off of the next year's carryover. Plus we budgeted carryover. That's kind of like saving your money and spending money.
But you understand what we budgeted right now.
Well, I
Because it wasn't.
understand that if I were to ask an expert if that budget would work, I do not believe that an expert would say, yes, this is how you budget. I think that an expert would say, you cannot use carryover to a reoccurring expense without getting in severe trouble. And like I said, I'm not beating anybody up. Most of the Quorum Court has lived this.
Correct.
And it caused us a great deal of pain.
Correct.
It wasn't an apology where you get to stand up and apologize for something, but then don't actually make any suggestion on how you're going to correct it and just say, we're going to vote on it next month and see what happens. It'll be your fault if you say no. This is one where we get attacked. I don't have confidence in that budget working. I think that maybe we should look into asking a financial expert to actually move forward. Maybe Dozier, I talked to him in private, like just when I was getting my own personal taxes done.
I've already looked into that. I'm waiting for the 22 audit to be finished before we do a forensic audit. But yes, it's on the board to do. But I want to have council explain why we have the carryover in there this year without the cleanup ordinance to be done. Am I correct on that, sir?
Basically what happened is when no cleanup ordinance was done, we had carryover that wasn't properly accounted for back into either the general fund or the special funds. And one of the things that came up out of the audit was there was a number of special funds that there was no budgets for. And the other concern they had is that Marion County has not been fully following the county financial system management manual. As a result, when the bills were presented, the carryover bills from 22, because no cleanup ordinance was done, they were taken out of the 2298 budget. Hence, the appropriations that were set for 2023 were actually diminished by the bills that had to be paid for 2022. So part of the purpose of amending this budget was to account for all that. Typically, you don't show carryover for revenues, but because they were never properly accounted for and swept back into all the appropriate accounts, we have to document what happened to that money, where it came from. And in the 2298 budget that was passed, there was a master number that was shown in the budget for carryover. The individual carryover for all the separate budgets and fund numbers were never properly accounted for in the budget. So when you look at the 2298 budget, there is no actual lining up or reconciliation of the various funds and the various budgets back to their proper accounts. Now, do I think that the numbers that are in each of the offices are correct? Yes, but they were never properly reconciled through a cleanup ordinance. So as such, the monies that were appropriated in the budget for this year for each of the departments, depending upon who had to pay what bills out of their budget for last year, their budgets are going to actually be less than what they were last year.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Right, but there's carryover in county general, the county judge can dictate carryover. In special funds, it stays in that special fund account. 3018, which is the jail, that extra money stays there, it gets used for next year. The carryover, and as far as the cleanup ordinance, the quorum, there was some comment about the quorum court. We don't present an ordinance of the quorum court. Who's ever responsible for doing the budget, it would be their responsibility because they're paying the bills. We don't have any idea what bills are outstanding. It was a simple mistake that the 2023 funds were used to pay 2022's expenses. A simple ordinance stating how much money, the total amount, and what needed to be reappropriated would have cleared it all up.
Those are,
The thing, in the special funds,
those are covered.
carryover, unless it's changed, it's still there. That never changes. It gets rolled every year.
Those three ordinances will be here today that we'll be voting on to clean up that money. Yes, sir.
I looked at it and I still feel that we raised the revenues also. So to clarify whether or not we raised revenues, can we take the bottom line, somebody can take the bottom line of 2298 and the bottom line of this suggested budget, it's not, I couldn't see it in this, but we'll see what those differences are. Because I feel that it did raise those.
Tony?
Specifically, Tony, what's the difference in the bottom line? How much money we budgeted? 2022, 98 had a $10 million bottom line. What does this have as the bottom line, total budget?
The summary is right there. It shows here 15 million. That includes carryover. That includes the revenue projected by the law enforcement. And the sheriff's department.
So,
What page do you see that on?
The very first page where it says budget summary.
It's like the third page. in that one.
Thank you.
It's after the, it's right after the beginning.
Mr. Scrimmon, you remember the bottom line of 2298?
There is a, on the second portion of this, there's a side by side, which shows 2298. So it's on the 2298 and the amendment of the next one. And it has side by side on all of that. So it gives you a better. Well, I've got that same budget of this, installing pages.
Okay, where's, I see this page where it says 2298, or 2228, but it's supposed to be 98, three times across the top.
Right.
So where's the new one in relation? Is it on the same page? The one we're voting on amended,
That's the first portion of it.
first portion of this same page?
Well, yeah, is this portion here is similar to the front, the one you're voting on, only this shows a side by side with the 2298 budget that is.
Okay, but I'm confused because they're all labeled the same thing. It says 2228 at the top 3 different times.
Yeah.
Okay, but the first column is the new one because it says $3 million of projected revenue.
That was what the 2298 budget showed. And next to where it says projected.
Is amended. Okay.
That's the increase that.
Okay, I'm confused on why it repeats itself across there but with different numbers.
One
See what I
is,
mean?
the first is revenue, the first two are revenue numbers.
Yeah.
The second two are appropriations.
Okay,
And the third are the unappropriated.
okay. Alright, so, okay. I see what it is.
I'm sorry, I was trying to do a quick comparison with, but I got confused.
So we appropriated $200,000 more dollars out of county general. And out of law enforcement, we've appropriated less money, so we cut the budget in law enforcement. Twice, and jail.
Let's see, in law enforcement, we increased.
Oh, no, see, okay,
Appropriated, we
All right.
increased appropriations in both law enforcement and.
okay, that's the point that I'm sorry, I got confused, let me restart. Matt, keep going, good.
Yes, sir.
In county jail, under appropriated funds for our old budget was $768,000, which I'll agree was too low. We talked about that. In our new one, it's 1.2 million, which I'm gonna say is $237,000 increase. Okay? And the other one, for law enforcement, 891,000 is increased to 1.1 million. So right there is an increase in the budget of like $500,000. Okay. All right, so let me ask a question very directly. Just a couple seconds ago, I think people would have been led to believe that we did not spend any more money. That's certainly how I felt. But we are spending more money. We're spending $500,000 more dollars.
And this is, I have to look at the attention of law enforcement, defense, and the jail facility there. Those numbers were generated by the sheriff and his department. I didn't work on those, and I just incorporated in there, so perhaps they could help with that.
Yes, sir.
Apparently, we've messed up somewhere.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I could be comfortable that the budget, it should, your 22 expenses, because you didn't pay them, your carryover should be equal to that additional money. If you didn't pay 200,000 in bills, you should have an additional 200,000, because now you're gonna take it against that New Year's revenue. I could accept that, that's what should be going on. But I got concerned because I saw, Mike, I didn't look at the detail to say, if it's the same, when I saw the revenue almost 500,000, I'm concerned to have an additional 500,000. And now I see it right here because if you, I don't know if you were at the last meeting, when we sat down for the final meeting, we got little if any help at all. And we made a motion to go with last year's budget for the jail, and we did. And Greg was there, and I gave him the numbers to meet, and I said, I don't care what you do in the middle of it, we meet that bottom line. And that was because we didn't have any cooperation or participation, and we were trying to pass our budget.
Yes, sir.
I
I understand.
certainly have no problem with spending a little more money,
I understand.
but this is not a little more money. I'm not beating anybody up, and it doesn't even matter. The past is the past. I'm ready to move on. The fact of the matter is, this is what we have to do. We have to identify, number one, not the total amount of carryover. That's very misleading, because that could have accrued over years.
Correct.
So if we say, well, we have $200,000 carryover, so we can spend $200,000.
No.
If that accrued over 3 years' time, which it did, we're going to be broke quick.
No, you don't want a budget carryover.
Yeah, I'm not beating anybody up. I'm not wanting to point fingers or anything. I just simply do not believe that this is sustainable. And I mean, we could all vote for it, and we could pass it, and it would probably work for a year because we do have all that carryover. But let me just quickly say this: when we made a mistake of $400,000, it caused a huge catastrophe. It was very hard to dig ourselves out of that. Okay, nothing changed as far as revenue, but we're wanting to spend the $400,000 that's already gotten us in trouble again. But there's no new revenue. In order to spend more money, we have to first generate more revenue. And so the carryover, we went through, and everybody can understand this, and if you can't, then whatever. We were given more money in the last 2 years than we will ever get given to us again.
Correct.
And that really fudged these numbers, and it really makes it look like we're in way better shape than we are. Sustainably, nothing has changed. Take away the excess of money that the federal government has given to us in the last 2 years, and nothing has changed. We do not have $400,000 to expend.
Mr. Chairman, I want to add, we had
Yes,
a
sir.
problem. That next year's budget, we did not use carryover in the 2022 budget. So that money, which is, I want to say 400,000, was just pulled away out of revenue. And so now, like he's saying, everything you read about budgeting tells you never use one-time money for reoccurring expenses.
I agree.
Like Talon's saying, over the course of years, they've been doing it and not being a problem until we had a major problem. But the judge, we're forgetting, when the judge said he pulled carryover and not a budget, that was $400,000. So now that money was sitting there, and now it accrued more this year or that year. So we're not remembering, that didn't just come out of the sky.
I'm agreeing that you cannot use one-time money for
No,
recurring
you
things.
can, but
Well,
it's
you know,
something you
You should,
You're
you
rolling
shouldn't,
the
and I,
dice.
and I don't want it to happen during my
Wow.
administration. And then two, I also agree that you don't use carryover in your budget. I just had said that the one reason we're doing it for right now is because it was unaccounted for in February.
But I'm going to disagree with the way that we're looking at it. You're looking at it as we're just putting the carryover in that. The way that I saw it, the carryover is not only being put in there, but it's also being spent, because where else would we raise 500,000 revenues? I mean, the 500,000 that we're spending, there's no more revenue. What revenue changed? I mean, we up what we up in a sales tax. We say, okay, last year we brought in 300,000, but we only spent 200,000. That's 100,000 carryover. If we say last year we only spent 200,000, let's spend 300,000. We've eliminated the carryover, but we've grown by more than the 100,000 that we've increased the revenue.
And this is in the law enforcement part you're talking about?
It's law enforcement and jail.
He's in the detention center.
All right.
So we actually budgeted to spend 200,000 of that in the detention center.
And
And have 200,000, like 20 carryover, I believe.
I want to be very clear on my stance, because my words get twisted on me sometimes by some people who don't like me. I would love to spend the money,
I understand.
but loving spending money and getting yourself into financial trouble go hand in hand.
And I don't want to get in financial trouble. We're in a good spot right now.
I think we're on a path to getting in trouble if we pass this. But we can spend more money, and we can arrive at the exact number of more money that we can spend. But it's very misleading to say we had 400,000 carryover, because that accrued for years, 2 or 3 years, since whenever that happened, and we were
Correct.
all got in trouble.
That's why you don't budget carryover.
And because we didn't budget carryover, it grew year after
Yeah,
year.
as it should.
Yeah, and it should be like a rainy day, like one-time expense.
And
But there is money to be raised in those tax revenues, but not in that stream. There's no way. I mean, Marion County just didn't get rich.
yes, ma'am.
I'm really not sure which one you're looking at, but there was an earlier one that we did not feel comfortable with, and we resubmitted the one that is in the book now, I believe. And what we were projecting on, and I spoke to Mr. Russo, is we were looking at actual numbers of money that has been coming in, and we lowered that on the projection column. The 400,000 carryover, we showed, so that was our plan, was to hold 200,000 to show like a buffer basically in there and not have it allocated out, and to end up with 200,000 at the end. Now, our revenues stayed between 350 and 450, or our money in our account stays that has been saying that all year long. So that was where we were basing it.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
It's being lost here also. Several years ago, I'll say two, we were discussing the deal, see the prisoners, and we were asked to raise the revenue. We were convinced that they were gonna receive approximately $400,000 in reimbursement for housing state prisoners. We increased the budget for the jail by 400,000. 2 months later, they stopped. But they never reduced the budget by 400,000. That budget was last year, and now it's being carried this year. But yet the revenue which we gave the money on didn't come up. So we're already, like Talon says, we're running behind. And unfortunately, it's a department that 85% of it is labor. Come January 1st, you're spending the money as it goes now. And it's the only, nothing, it's just the way the department is. No offense to you, Greg.
Well, none taken, but
Yes, sir.
I want to correct something. There's only $72,000 or $73,000 coming out of county general going to the detention center.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
That 400,000, that never happened.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only 72 or 3,000 that's coming from county general.
Personnel, I believe.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna interject in there. The 400,000, Greg is right.
Yeah.
We mistakenly didn't put it in the budget.
Yeah.
Our intent was to put it in the budget, but also the other side of that is that he doesn't have enough money to get through the year without it. So that was one of those things that when I came to that budget meeting, I said, we've underfunded the jail. Yeah, yes, we've underfunded the jail. So to not to play devil's advocate, but to be completely fair, the 400,000 should be there. And again, no one's against you. You're in a very, very difficult spot. And we know because, and I will point fingers, everyone in the county was lied to about the jail. And we were lied to about, the people that built the jail, let's blame it on them. They said that it would take one more employee to run the jail. That was a blatant lie.
A flat out.
Right. And so for that reason, I'm not mad at you, I'm not upset with you, and I don't think that you're underperforming.
Yeah.
You're in an impossible spot. And I know you know that. And also to say that, and people will just have to be mad at me. But when it's easy to not be up here and say, oh, just spend the money. Well, yeah, but you don't get yelled at.
Well, and we don't want the county to be broke.
Right, and
Not at all.
we're elected to represent our constituents, whether our constituents like us or not. We have to represent them if that requires us to be tough and say we don't have the money. If somebody can show me where we do have the money, I will 100% change my opinion. I'm not seeing it, and if you can show me where it's there, and Eddie Jones agrees that it's there, I'll agree that it's there, and I will 100% flip-flop, but there's no way nothing's changed, but Marion County can spend $500,000 more.
Yeah, that's probably true, but I will say this, and you've already said it. The numbers that were passed in the 2022-98 budget, we're not going to make it.
I'll agree.
We are not going to make it.
I'll
On the
agree.
law enforcement side
Yeah.
and on the detention center
Yeah.
side, brother, we're going broke.
We're not, I wouldn't argue with
Yeah,
you on
I
this,
mean, so we're going to have help somewhere.
but we came to a meeting to finalize the budget, because that was the only department that was really outstanding. We had a couple of, we had to clean up, that was no big deal, but no one was there. And, no, it did not arrive at that, that's when I gave you the bottom line, and said, Greg, here's the number you gotta meet, I don't care how you arrive at it, and that's what we use for budgeting. And we've said that. And in all fairness, we didn't even have a representative there. And we was, I don't know how many meetings we had, and we just said, here's what we're gonna do. And that's what we did for last year,
Yes,
for
sir.
this year.
At those meetings, our budget report that we got towards the end showed that in 2022, it looked to me like the sheriff was going to come in under budget on not only the sheriff's station, but the jail and metro. All of you were going to come in under budget. So I didn't get a clean up budget, and February 2022, so I don't know what our rollover was. The last I seen looked to me like he came out under budget, not $500,000 up from there. So I don't know what the difference is between then and now. That's what I have here.
I don't know about 22. I'm asking you for help. I've got to ask every one of you for help to come up with money to sustain.
Well, obviously, we've had some numbers here that we weren't all aware of to begin with this. I apologize for that. I'm just now aware that we're changing the sheriff's budget for my proposed budget here to be amended. So with that said, and what we have left in front of us, I will go ahead and entertain a motion to call the question.
Call question.
To
In the debate and vote, yeah.
you wanting us to progress and vote on it?
Yeah, there's numbers there that I wasn't aware of until right now as well.
So what would we like to do? Which would table it and talk about it next month?
Well, we got
Wanting us to-
well, I'm going to change some things and represent it.
Okay, calling the question will eliminate the debate, but we'll proceed to vote. But we could lay on the table until next month, and then it would just end debate. We could,
I'll entertain a motion to table.
I'll make the motion to table till next month.
I get a second.
Second.
All those for?
Aye.
Against? Tabled. Next, Ms. Dawn.
I forgot that was it.
This is ordinance 2373, so amending the 2022 budget, and it's appropriating $5,000 from county general to the $5,000 to the Quorum Court advertising line item.
I'm sorry, I am lost. We had this wonderful, it's not in the order.
Yeah, we skipped it.
Okay.
What is that? Does everybody have it in order?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Motion.
Hudgens made a motion.
We got a motion in a second.
We have a motion in a second.
I'm just curious how we're adding, we've ran out of money in advertising and we've not made it, we're like to July, halfway through the year. I don't understand how we did that. So I think we went back, right, and we looked and we budgeted the same amount every year. But this year we ran out in July and usually we make it through the whole year without having to, I don't think we've ever went with an ordinance to have to add money for advertising. I'm just trying to figure out how we did that.
All right.
Anybody knows?
Yeah. We were given the, what they were paid on, they paid 2022 bills in the 2023 budget. We have the copies of, some of them. But there's several budgets, several more back there where again, how much they paid in 2020, 2022 and 2023, I have no idea.
We have ordinances coming up, 3 of them that were passed at the last committee meeting.
That's true.
Hold on. Thank you, sir. And I'll explain to Van Karen that those 3 ordinances are replacing what was taken out of 23 to the 22 budgets that were mispaid and taking money, putting back in those 23 budgets to bring them all up. This is the first that I've seen this one right here.
Okay, so because if we add money here and then we go back to another ordinance to
I know.
take their money back, well, then we have double money here.
I just see this one here sponsored by Justice White, and I did not see this at any of the committee meetings.
This was an email. I do remember.
Okay. Did it go before a committee meeting? Okay. Yes, sir.
This, at this point, nobody's gonna come forward and told us how broad it is. We have ordinances, yeah, but we don't know if that's the end of, what was paid out of 2022 to 2023.
I believe it's broke down individually through all of them, and I believe it's you're a sponsor on them, correct? But you also sponsored them, correct?
But we don't know if that's all that was paid out.
Yes, ma'am.
If you go look forward, for one of the ordinances that you're talking about, Judge, it's putting back $2,381.75. And in the cleanup ordinance that you were talking about,
I have three of them. Which one are you
oh,
referring
it's the
to?
first one. Well, we know,
I like this book, but page numbers would make this.
I know, we had to do the book because what was sent out had some, things in the wrong,
So, this is 73.
had some things in the wrong area and also had some duplicates in there. All right.
It's the one after the 30,000 for the fire department had appropriated to Quorum Court, $2,381.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I can understand this correctly, what we're saying for 2023, that expense is 5,000 short.
Correct. Because 22 bills were paid with that money.
Taking the money from 2022, moving it over, which you have to do, yeah.
And I had my comptroller go through
Yeah.
and find out the exact monies that were spent in 23 budget for the mistake of paying the 22 bills.
Do you have an idea how much in unpaid bills? And just have one ordinance that would say, here's the amount we're transferring, and then the line item for each.
Well, I had them break it down this way to be more on point instead of just one lump sum number. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Tony.
The total amount of claims that were 22 claims that were charged for 2023 were 168,000.
From last year's bill that we charged against this year.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
That's right, you're short this year, right? But.
We've been discussing this for 3 months.
Your carryover would have reflected that amount.
It reflected that in the carryover. So what I did was, the carryover that I saw at the end of the year was $2,160,000.
That's right, it would have reflected the equal amount, okay. Okay. That's,
Please,
Yes, sir.
we're gonna address it later. I just make a motion to lay this one on the table indefinitely.
okay.
You got a second?
Second.
All those for?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All these ordinances that you're putting forward as appropriation ordinances actually need to be fixed and reworded. For example, I'm on the one for the sales tax law enforcement fund, where you're appropriating the sales tax law enforcement fund.
Which page number is that?
But
Thank you.
even
Thank
if
you.
go back
All
even if you go back to various other pages, basically what you're trying to do and the way it's worded, you're appropriating money as a cleanup ordinance.
Right.
You can't do that. You have to amend the individual budgets. And you have to amend the budgets to show the corrected, amended total figures
For each individual entity.
for each budget group.
Mr. Chairman, you could have in the opening paragraph that this is a cleanup ordinance taking 2020,
Look at things before we.
that were misspent against.
You have until March 15th of this year to do that.
Well, yeah,
Now you must amend the budget.
yeah, I know that. But
This doesn't amend the budget. This just says we're gonna clean it up
Yeah,
and we're gonna put extra money
Yeah.
into your account. You had until March 15th to do that. That wasn't done. So now, on this one, I'm looking at appropriate for county judge fund, and it says appropriate from county general 17,844. That you can't clean up an ordinance halfway through the year. You can't do that. You have to amend the budget.
so I'm sorry, if the verbiage is incorrect, then
Words are weapons.
Yeah.
And the way this is worded,
Yeah.
you're writing a cleanup ordinance that you cannot write. You have to amend the budget.
Yes, sir.
I think maybe this is what we could try to do. option for last year's bills to put the money back into to reimburse it, right? In the each line, we have the information here. We've just come about it the wrong way.
Correct. We have the numbers that we need.
It's just easy solution.
Yes.
Let's move on and fix it later.
All right.
I think
So we're going to table,
we don't have anything on the floor. We have nothing on the floor.
oh, we already tabled whites?
If it were me, I would just skip the ones that are cleanups and whatnot, and let's just move on with what other people, whatever they're doing.
Let me track down these ordinances real quick so I know which one is which. We haven't got that far yet. So we're past whites, we're going to the,
Number 4.
we're on number 4, appropriation.
Road.
No.
Where are we? 5,000?
Okay, we're on number 5, correct?
Yeah, I was there.
We're on ordinance 5. Go ahead, Ms. Dawn.
Okay. 2374, this is amending the ordinance 2145, which establishes the minimum amount for the purchase of equipment. This would raise the minimum purchase amount of equipment to capital outlay to $2,500 rather than $1,000.
Motion to receive it. Accept it.
Second.
What's the ordinance number,
Call has got
please?
motion. Nicholas, the second.
Where we at? We got a motion.
Motion and a second, yes. So up for discussion.
What's the number on this one?
74.
Thank you.
All right, no discussion.
Okay. Justice Van Buren,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Justice Hutchins,
Yes.
Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham,
Yes.
Justice McCullough,
Yes.
Justice Scrimmmer,
Yes.
Justice Nichols.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. So ordinance 6, we're going to skip. Yes. Huh? We're pulling them, yes. We're pulling 6.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're going to, I'll let you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Tell me where we're going.
We're on ordinance 7 for the fire departments.
Okay.
I don't believe this is a cleanup. Let me read through it real quick. I do not have ordinance 7.
$30,000 for that fire department thing.
I do not have it in my book.
Fire department.
Thank you. Here we go. All right.
Yes, that's fire department.
Nope, we're going to table, or we're going to pull 7 as well. Now we're on the transfer station. Solid waste.
I thought, I know this is an editorial comment, but I thought we passed that procedure so that we wouldn't have this problem with everybody having a different kind of order and, I mean, I think it's worse now than before we passed that procedure ordinance. Everything had to be at the clerk's office.
You mean the way it was sent out?
No, I mean, the last 3 months, there's been nothing wrong with the whole packet.
Yes.
And
I'm
we
agreeing.
passed that ordinance so that it would flow and we wouldn't have this problem, but the problem's even worse. So I'm just saying an editorial comment.
Correct. Yes. No.
That's it. Sorry.
Judge, mine goes to the corner.
Mine-
Is there something? I go from the ordinances that we skip, and then it goes to the corner.
You guys want to get on the same page? Are we skipping this one?
If that one's being pulled. Yes.
Okay.
I've got, the transfer station, the $9,800.
Okay, ours goes to $1,000 for the corner. Is what is when we skip those ones that we pulled.
You don't have, do you have, on your paperwork, do you have number 8 ordinance transfers, various departments?
Transfer to various departments.
That's not what I have here.
How we do it. I don't think that's how I think it was. If we go from fire department to corners, which skips that number 8. So it's just not in our booklet.
Gotcha. And like I said, what was emailed out was had duplicates and some things were put out of order. So we tried for half the day today to present this booklet the way that it is.
Okay, can we all agree that we're on the corner?
Yes.
This is where you transfer money from line item for other miscellaneous to reparation. Justice White?
Yeah.
What?
It is 75.
Here, I found it. Good deal. It's in the back of my book.
Justice White?
Yeah.
Justice Hutchins?
Yes.
Justice Shipman?
Yes.
Justice Brigham?
Yes.
Justice McCullough?
Yes.
Justice Scrimmett?
Yes.
Justice Nichols?
Yes.
Justice Van Kuren?
Yes. It's 75.
All right. Now we're on cooler installation, correct? All right. Cooler installation right after the body bags.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
2376, this amends the 2022 budget. It's requested, the coroner is requesting ARPA money in the amount of $7,150.55 for building cooler, hanging fans, fitting condenser, plumbing with commercial hardware, copper, installed vibration eliminators, low high side filter dryers, including shut off on side dryers for low loss refrigerant and quick change wiring supplies, direct fishing. All labor and materials listed.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Justice Hutchins,
Yes.
Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham,
Yes.
Justice McCullough,
Yes.
Justice Scrimmett,
Yes.
Justice Nichols,
Yes.
Justice Van Kuren,
Yes.
Justice White.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Ordinance 2377. This adjusts the operating budget of 2298 for the judge's office to need to transfer appropriated funds for payment of the expenses to run the county judges and comptroller's office in the amount of $10,000 being transferred from NWABD and into general supplies.
Motion.
Who's that? Because the bill's being paid, right? Who says? Yeah, but not because of 22, 23. Okay.
Any discussion?
I just, if you want, somebody want to speak on it?
I was just clarifying that it wasn't one of the ones where we're paying 22 bills and 23 money. It's not.
It's a grant money, the NWABD.
No. No.
It's just from that fund.
Yeah, just move it from that fund.
From the grant, is that the grant writer fund? Or what?
No, it was money, to deal with Northwest Arkansas economic development, and we haven't had to do that yet. We haven't had any need to do that. So we do have a need for copy paper and other supplies.
Just general office supplies
Yes,
and WAU.
'cause
And
we-
we're moving it to do general office supplies in the comptroller's office.
Yes, because we do our office and their office, and it takes a lot to do both of those with all the paper.
Yes, ma'am.
Obviously, we probably did, I don't know, 2 rings, just not with paper. Is there any other, I mentioned to the budget committee, we had gotten a report from Tony that I thought office supplies were high on a number of departments. So I can't help but wonder, is there an issue? In fact, there was one department, per the report we got from Tony, had already used 215% of their supply budget. So, and since y'all are needing supplies as well, you know.
Is the one that you saw one of the ones for the 22 and 23 monies paid?
No, it was not.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
For instance, on our
Speak up.
department, the reason the percentages look so high on the general supplies specifically for our office is because of the 2022 stuff being paid in 2023. We obviously have not spent $5,000 already in supplies this year. But with that being said, we are short. We are negative right now. We need paper. We need pens. So this would be for that.
This may be a bad. If we're gonna clean those other ones up, do we still need this because we've adopted the comptroller supplies?
Do we need to move forward?
Yes, we have.
We need it to move forward right now.
So each year, we're gonna be also needing the $10,000 for the,
No,
is a one-time expense or it's a recurring expense?
I think this will help us get over the hump of where we had extra expenses. We had to get some equipment, we had to get some small things that.
And if it would be
added up.
needed going forward, we would budget for it.
Yeah,
It would be, but it's not, we're not only correcting for paying 22 bills with 23 money. We also are at one time asking to increase the county judge's supply budget
right.
in addition. And we're still gonna go back and clean that other one up, and we still need this.
Well, we need it, the point is, we need it now, because we've got people that need to get paid, and we don't have the money to pay them right now. So out of that line item, we can't pay them.
General supplies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like clerk's office,
Yeah.
there are general
Oh, the
supplies.
bills need.
Correct,
Yes,
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 not
yes.
not
Okay, not their
employees.
payroll.
No.
No, no,
No.
no,
It's not
no,
payroll
no.
related
I
at all.
got you.
Any further discussion? Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham,
Yes.
Justice McCullough,
Yes.
Justice Scrima,
Yes.
Justice Nichols,
Yes.
Justice St. Clair,
Yes.
Justice White, Justice Hutcher.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2378, this amends the operating budget of 2022 to transfer unappropriated funds from solid waste sales tax to solid waste, solid waste sales tax recycling to solid waste sales tax waste disposal in the amount of $35,000.
Motion.
Van Karen motion, McCall a second.
Any discussion? Justice Brigham,
Yes.
Justice McCullough,
Yes.
Justice Scrima,
Yes.
Justice Nichols,
Yes.
Justice Van Buren,
Yes.
Justice White,
Yes.
Justice Hudson,
Yes.
Justice Shipman.
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 2379, amends, transfers unappropriated money from the transfer station fee to sales tax solid waste to bring the transfer of funds up to date pursuant to ordinance 21-2, in the amount of $242,930.10.
Motion.
Second.
We'll call a motion, Hutchins second.
Is this a cleanup ordinance for this?
No,
meeting
this-
22?
This was brought to our attention by the treasurer, that monies in 21 had not been moved according to a ordinance from 21-2. And when we looked into it, we saw that 22 monies had not been moved. And we looked into it, we saw that 23 monies was the same. So we put both those together to move them in that account according to the ordinance 2021-2.
Thank you.
Yes.
Justice McCullough,
Yes.
Justice Scrimmel,
Yes.
Justice Nichols,
Yes.
Justice Van Buren,
Yes.
Justice White,
Yes.
Justice Hudson,
Yes.
Justice Shipman, Justice Brigham. Ordinance 2380, this appropriates $9,800 from solid waste sales tax recycling to solid waste sales tax waste fund in parts repairs and other professional services.
Motion. Second.
Get that. All right.
Any discussion? Justice Scrimmel,
Yes.
Justice Nichols.
Yes.
Justice Van Buren,
Yes.
Justice White,
Yes.
Justice Hutchins,
Yes.
Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham, Justice McCullough.
Yes.
Thank you. Twenty 81. This is an ordinance changing the numbers of compensation of 2022-98 to give a raise increase in the assessor's office.
Whoa. We got,
Wait, did I skip something?
yeah, we're on 15, the county road fund for the
I am so
transfer.
sorry. I am so sorry. Okay, this says, yeah. 2381, this appropriates for the transfer of funds for vehicles sold at auction in the amount of $68,394.20. It appropriates it from County Road to County Road lot line item vehicles.
Motion.
Second.
Nichols motion. We'll call it second, please. Yes, sir.
Are you wanting to buy something or?
We had an auction, and so the money from the auction, I want to get some new route vehicles. I had 2 route trucks break down the last ice storm. So I'm going to purchase some route trucks.
Like half-ton trucks?
Yes.
Justice Nichols,
Yes.
Justice Van Buren,
Yes.
Justice White,
Yes.
Justice Hutchins,
Yes.
Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham,
Yes.
Justice McCullough,
Yes.
Justice Scrimmel.
Yes.
Now. Ordinance 2382, again, this is for the assessor's office, not changes with the number of compensation to give wage increases in the office. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Justice Van Plan,
No.
Justice White,
No.
Justice Hutching,
Yes.
Justice Shipman,
Yes.
Justice Brigham. No. Justice McCullough,
No.
Justice Scrimmel,
No.
Justice Nichols.
No.
Thank you. 2023, excuse me, 2023-83. This is the annual operating budget for the calendar year 2023 for the purchase of jail, to appropriate funds for the purchase of jail management reporting software at the Marion County Sheriff's Department. In the amount of $18,060 will be taken out of the local assistance and tribal food assistance expense.
Motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
Yes, sir.
Does somebody speak on it? Maybe one second.
It's the software for the law enforcement and the detention center that needs to be upgraded so that they can continue to do the reports. This is the same company that we failed to pay the $27,000 with in 18. But they're coming back in to upgrade this and bring us back up to where we need to be utilized with the updates. And in addition to this, we're gonna have to budget next year another, this is $18,000, wasn't it? This is gonna pay for 2024 as well. In 25, we will have to budget another $7,000 or $8,000 to pay for it. So it's gonna be a reoccurring, expense.
Justice Van Kuren.
I'd like to just use this time real quick to briefly clarify that I made a sarcastic comment a couple of months ago about maybe we're better off not pay our bills, and not everyone recognized my sarcasm. And I apologize to those people who don't recognize sarcasm.
Is that all? Oh, okay. Justice White?
Yeah. The only objection I have is that, where the funds come from. There's two funds available to the sheriff for, software. One is 3014, it's got $89,000 in it. The other one is his bank account. There's, both of them are for software, to use software.
Right.
So what we want to pay maybe one of those.
Should we not utilize what we asked to come out of?
I think he's made it specifically for.
Tribal consistency. That's it.
Justice White, could you say that again? I didn't hear what you said.
Just so that y'all, this is gonna put the law enforcement side and the jail side talking to each other. If they do a incident report in the jail that causes us to file charges against somebody, tearing up a door, the computer software will allow the law enforcement side to talk to this as well. I mean, it's an upgraded version.
Justice White? You mentioned a fund that had money, and I didn't hear the amount.
The funds that are available on any of the software, there's one of them is 3014, which is communication facility fund. It's the one fed by the jail's phone service. And you also got his checking account, which is funded by 25% of all the court fees. And that's under the same exact law as 3014.
Does it have an amount that's in there?
Last time I checked with Sheriff, we had, what, about 20,000 in the checking account, maybe
Yes.
more?
Yes.
He has an available one. It can be used, either one of those can be used for it. Checking account, what, take anything, it's like check for it, it's gonna be 3014, and then you should get it from that.
And this 3014 list, what's in there?
89,774.
89,000. And how much are you asking for?
18 something.
Yes, sir.
Chairman, there appears to be a pattern with special funds. If you look at how much is in special funds, there's a lot of money sitting in there, that's not being utilized, and we're using some of the other money, which potentially could be used for different smaller departments that don't have those funds. And just letting it sit there and grow like a blank check, it's not fair, because we're really struggling. We really, in budget process, should look at special funds right off the bat and get them down. And there's over, like they said in the report, some special funds were budgeted. We didn't do that. That's up to the elected official. But they let it sit there and grow, and yet we're struggling to meet the needs of some of the other departments. And the money's been sitting there, it's like, Rick said. And they're not all fairness to you, Rick. The other departments are doing the same exact thing. Just the money's sitting there, special funds, the total amount. There's an awful lot of money just sitting there, and we're struggling with some of the other departments. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The 3014 in the bank account, the description of how you spend it, or how he spends it, is definitely the sheriff's funds, and he can spend it almost any way he wants, on software, guns, clothing, I mean, a broad range of spending. I wanted to bring it up because he's got a broad range of things he wants to spend money on. But that would be one of the things you should do. When you start using those.
Any more discussion? Ms. Dawn?
Justice White?
Yes.
Justice Putching?
Yes.
Justice Shipman?
Yes.
Justice Brigham?
Yes.
Justice McCullough?
Yes.
Justice Scrima?
Yes.
Justice Nichols?
Yes.
Justice Van Kuren?
Yes.
In the sustainability.
Ordinance 2384, this is appropriate funds for the purchase of 4 vehicles for law enforcement and related expenses for each vehicle, and to replace 4 existing patrol vehicles, specifically the following patrol vehicles, which is in the amount of $191,568.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, Karen, one second. Yes, sir.
Before we vote on this thing, we should take a look and get the sheriff's opinion. He's got 2 ordinances back to back. One is for buying vehicles, one is for leasing vehicles.
Correct.
And they're connected. One will pass, one won't pass. So both of them won't pass. Anyway.
Am I under the impression, sir, that you would rather lease than buy?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Me too, I thought, see what happened, right?
Come up a little closer so I can hear you.
Well, I'll talk loud enough. We will take whichever 4 vehicles that you would allow us to have, either the lease or the purchase. Either way, we need to replace the 4 vehicles that are listed on the page as they need to go.
And are you gonna talk about the ordinance where it passed where you can buy vehicles? You wanna bring that up and discuss that?
Those 3 vehicles that we ordered in March, I believe they were ordered March the 28th. They are still on order, and they have still not come in. We need something pretty quick.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Big Aaron.
I wasn't at the meeting where this was brought. Could you just briefly run it by me? This one, the first one is that we're discussing right now is to purchase
Is to purchase 4 vehicles.
4 vehicles. And the next one that, and
If this one didn't pass,
then we go to the next one,
we would go to the next one,
which is
the lease,
4 vehicles.
4 vehicles.
And what would you rather do?
I mean, I'd rather own them outright.
Which one's more available, the one you've been working on for a month, strictly a month, or weekly? Getting a vehicle.
Red River Dodge has vehicles in stock right now that the state of Arkansas on the state bid that were ordered and weren't picked up. They have, last week, this could have changed this week, last week they had 6, and we could get 4 vehicles just tomorrow. If you approve the money, we can do it.
Yes, sir.
One more clarifying question and you may have just answered this, but I was talking to myself. The other vehicles that we bought, we haven't got them yet, but we didn't order them from the state.
We did, we ordered them off the state contract.
But because we ordered specific ones, it's the delay.
Yes.
This one, we're gonna order the ones that are available.
They've actually got last week.
Yeah,
They had these on the lot.
I'm on the same page.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Both of the ordinance have different descriptions for the vehicles. The first one, to buy the vehicles, is the Dodge Durangos. And the second one, the lease, is for Chevrolet Crew Cabs.
That is correct. I mean, if we can purchase the ones at the cheaper price, let's purchase them.
Are they,
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Judge. I thought when we had this discussion at the budget meeting, leasing was gonna be a whole lot cheaper. What happened? It's the same price.
The price that I quoted was the price that they gave us in February.
Oh.
And everything is just, it's junk.
Okay.
Yes. And I tried to explain that in
You
that
did,
long email
But it
that
was, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just want to remind the sheriff about our conversation.
Do.
We have got to come up with a sustainable plan to have money because this American Rescue Fund that we've been so happy to have ain't gonna be there probably in the
Well, I
future.
agree. I agree.
Right, and let me capitalize on the point right here. That expansion that I pointed out in that government, or that, we're expanding government. The expansion in the, sheriff's department fund earlier, that did not account for vehicles. So that was an
No.
expansion without even including vehicles.
Without the-
Yeah, at some point, we're gonna have to put in there to get some vehicles. We can't keep doing this. This is unsustainable.
I agree.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was gonna be my point. It's been a long evening, but when we were talking about the budget, you can't count on one-time money. Just like the judge can't count on FEMA money, you know, all the money's gonna be gone. So it is what it is.
The one-time money that the teaching center has, the $400,000 that it's sitting in.
Yeah, that's not really the intention, something. It's coming out of county general. I mean, it doesn't
No,
really.
no,
have-
it's sales tax money that was put back in there over, you just said, over the last 3 years.
It can't, I don't wanna get into a long debate.
Okay.
There's no way that the jail has sales tax money that's being carried over if the way that we implemented the budget was followed, not guaranteeing that it was, but the way that we implemented the budget, it was to leave you with no carryover in sales tax.
Let's get back to the vehicles. Yes, sir.
I'd like to see, Greg, you've got to buy equipment, it's not only residents, you want to department. You start setting up a reserve fund, so if you need a vehicle, let's say you take 191 and every 4 years, you're looking at 50,000, but here it's 191, where you accrue some money so that you, as the vehicles are needed, you have some reserve. Because like we're saying, we're just one in days, we're gonna be in a major trouble, we just got limited funds, and your vehicles could have 200,000, and you get another 200,000 miles. Because we just, unfortunately, that's just the way we are.
I understand.
All right.
Yes,
What
Yes,
do you-
ma'am.
What do you spending your money on that you raised from your office?
What I was going to mention a while ago about the carryover money and the auction money is that we're gonna have to buy a transporter van for the detention center.
Wait. Didn't we appropriate some money for the previous judge, ARPA money, bought it from, there was a van?
The 94 model van that we got up there,
Yeah.
we're still utilizing that. But when we had to send Danny to Pennsylvania, we had to take another car and get it up and operable. I mean, it broke down on us on the interstate coming back from the DOC. But we got 870 auto, got it put back together, and he was able to make the trip. But sometime soon, we're gonna have to buy another transport vehicle. I mean, you did buy the vehicle, the van from the church, I forgot what church. But we do have that van as well, and they're using it every day.
All right, so are we looking at purchasing outright or are you looking at leasing? Correct, but they're both right there together, and I want to know, you would rather purchase outright if you can.
I want to please the court. Whatever you like. You need to sit down? Okay, I'll sit down.
Yes, ma'am.
I do want to make a comment because I've been working with Eddie about jail and sheriff's office proceedings. And there is supposed to be a fund specifically for Marion County vehicles for the purchase. The money that goes in there is to be used for rescue, emergency medical, law enforcement vehicles, communication equipment, animals owned or used by law enforcement agencies, and life-saving medical apparatuses. Has previously been all put into 3029, and I have not went through records yet to see what money is supposed to be going to vehicles, but the correct fund for the vehicles would be 3022, and I just think we have that fund set up.
Yeah.
But all of it right now is going to
It
3029.
has been being put into 3029.
That's the 21,736.
Now, there are two separate things. One is supposed to go into 3029, and the other one is just for the 3022. And that's something that I'm still in the process of trying to figure out.
All right, so we're on ordinance 18.
At 3022. And I can send you guys the email of that Eddie sent me with all that information. If you need to.
All right, let's get back to ordinance 18. Any more discussion?
But just for clarification, this is we're buying the vehicle, that's what this is for.
That's, I believe 18 is buying and 19 is the leasing, correct?
Yeah.
That's the one we're voting on.
Ms. Dawn?
Okay, Justice Hutching,
Yes.
Justice Shipman.
Yes.
Justice Brigham.
Yes.
Justice McCullough.
Yes.
Justice Scrimmon.
Yes.
Justice Nichols.
Yes.
Justice Van Kuren.
Yes.
Justice White.
Your Honor, I'd like to withdraw the following ordinance.
Yes. Thank you. We will pull ordinance 19. Now, what I don't see on the list is my ordinance for the noise ordinance for the data mining centers. Do you guys have that? Wonderful. All right. You guys all have that in your packets? Yes. I get a motion? Motion. Oh. It's not your packet, I'm sorry. I apologize. Go ahead, Ms. Dawn.
Okay, this is ordinance 2385. And this is to prevent data centers, noise disturbance in Marion County within its unincorporated limits and declared emergency and for other purposes.
Motion.
Wait, you're ahead of me. Okay, I got your motion.
And McCall seconded.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
This is something you're wanting to pass?
We need, yes.
I mean, you're in
Correct.
favor of this.
Yes. And so is the AAC. Yes.
Any further discussion? Justice Shipman?
Yes.
Justice Brigham?
Yes.
Justice McCullough?
Yes.
Justice Scrimmon?
Yes.
Justice Nichols?
Yes.
Justice Van Turen?
Yes.
Justice White?
Yes.
Justice Hutchins?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good deal. The citizens of Marion County will thank you as well. They are loud.
That's all the ordinance I have. The next thing up would be
No.
discussion of the auditor.
We've all received the 21 audit. Yes. I would like to have council speak on the 21 audit.
Ladies and gentlemen, with the presentation of the audit report and the place in the package, as far as the referrals made to Mr. Evers across the I'm not addressing those, but any decisions pertaining to what was referred to him are his decisions. I responded from the standpoint of the county attorney, and I made recommendations to the county judge. And you all have heard me say time and time again, since I've been here, the way things have been going and have been done are not proper within county limits. One of the things that came out as part of the audit was the lack of use of the county financial fiscal management manual by all elected officials within the county. As Amber just mentioned, different coding numbers, different funds have not been properly established, properly used, properly set up, properly maintained. We're going to continue to get dinged, and I think in 2022, we're going to have similar issues in the audit, and moving into 2023, we're going to have those same issues until this gets corrected. The other problem, and this goes to some of the things I've mentioned in the audit report, is AAC puts out position manuals for each and every elected official position. Nobody seems to understand what their roles and responsibilities are pursuant to those manuals. A perfect example of that is what transpired and what we've been arguing about in the county budget. I've attached to my recommendations to the county judge the suggested budgeting procedures from AAC. At the end of the day, the county judge is the CEO of the county. It's his responsibility to oversee the compilation of the county budget. It then falls to two other officials within the county government, the treasurer to propose the projected revenues, and the comptroller to propose the current expenditures that are happening throughout the county. According to the suggestions in the manual, the county judge with the budget committee is then supposed to construct the budget and the suggested timetables in there, and that by November, going into November, that's going to be the first presentation of the county budget to the Quorum Court. It's then going to be looked at, voted on, decided upon, and then it's going to go back, if it needs it, to the budget committee, and the county judge, and any elected officials that need to address what they need to address, fix it, and come back before the full Quorum Court, hopefully for adoption in December. Once that occurs, then the comptroller and the county judge, because the buck stops with him, is going to have to be on top of all the elected officials to get all their bills turned in, so that any expenditures for 2022 potentially are going to be totally paid by the end of February, and the cleanup ordinance ideally is going to be done before March 15th, and ideally, the cleanup ordinance should be done before the first, or right at the first Quorum Court in March at the latest. And there should be certain hard cutoff times for each step of the budget process. Because at the end of the day, the budget falls to both the Quorum Court for the final passage as the legislative body and to the county judge as the executive branch, it's gonna take both entities working together to
Yes.
make this happen.
Yes.
That didn't happen this past year, and we had a total failure of the budget process that led us to all the mass confusion we have now. Now, with the adoption of financial intelligence and everything being corrected, fixed, and as far as I know, all the elected officials involved have pretty much got on top of everything in their various offices. I'm kind of excited that by the end of this year, we'll have good, accurate numbers, because we do have 5 years worth of numbers that all these officials have been working with in the compilation of the budget. However, everybody, and I can't urge this enough, they need to do two things. If training needs to be done with the elected officials and the various folks to understand the county financial management manual, we need to make that happen. Two, everybody needs to get their roles and responsibility books and understand what their roles and responsibilities are within their job and stay in their lane. As you can see, some of what transpired is there was $24,000 distributed without a contract for services in conflict with the Arkansas Constitution. As I've been saying, you cannot transfer money without an enabling ordinance. So in one of those, we discovered, but this is after the audit was completed, that the Fair Board executed a contract, but it was never passed on to the county judge for approval or signature. That doesn't help us. And even though the money per se was appropriated by the Quorum Court, that doesn't help without a contract duly executed by the chief executive of the county. Even as late, I have explained to both the county judge and various county officials, county officials can arrange contract for services, but at the end of the day, the county judge has to be involved and he has to sign off on it, and that money has to have been appropriated by ordinance by the Quorum Court.
Yes.
As such, if you look at some of these different expenditures, a lot of this fell upon the county judge. And the county judge is also the one who took the heat. But on some of this, there was distribution, like to the Marion County Senior Center and to the School of New Hope, without an enabling ordinance. As county attorney, it's not my job to look into this expenditure. That's not my responsibility. But moving forward, according to Article 12, Section 5, the county cannot give any money to a nonprofit. The county can't give any money to an individual or corporation and just give them money. Not allowed to do that. Now, the question may come up, and I've already done the research on this, what about the ARPA funds? We have an Attorney General's opinion that says that does not conflict with the Arkansas Constitution because that's federal grant money.
Yes, sir.
And as such, it can be distributed as grant money to just the way we're doing it. However, the fire departments have been getting money from the county, and we don't have a contract for service. We need to fix it. And it's my understanding OEM is working on it.
Yes, sir.
There's a whole broad category of who the county can contract for services with to provide services to the community. So if you look at the Marion County Senior Center, that would be a legitimate expense that you could have legitimately given them if we had a quote contract to them to provide for services for senior citizens. The same thing with the School of New Hope. But before any money is distributed by the Quorum Court, especially if it's going to a nonprofit entity or an individual, there has to be a supporting document such as a contract for service. And it has to be within or is allowed pursuant to statute. The other items that were listed were undocumented charges, T-shirts, personalized tumblers, things along those lines that should never have been purchased. One of the things I suggested to the county judge after discussion with the auditors, as a state employee, we have specific rules of how we have to turn in receipts and expenditures,
Yes.
including for travel documentation. And one of the things that was mentioned on here was food purchase from grocery stores and restaurant meals without overnight travel, $289 for hotel charges. And we have a specific way of that, how all this documentation has to be attached to our TR1 travel forms. I explained that to the judge, and that's something that he's already taken steps to implement within the county. From my standpoint, the bottom line is, if you just clean up our existing system just a little bit, we fall in line with utilizing the county financial management system manual, and all the elected officials will follow their roles and responsibilities, books, and know what their jobs and their lanes are, then I think in subsequent audits from 2023 forward, we'll be in good shape.
Yes, sir.
I anticipate similar remarks for the 2022 and 2023 audit because this was still going on. So I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
There was, I believe, with the fire departments, they did set up a mutual, an automatic aid exchange for the services, especially for the use of the radio towers. I thought there was an ordinance passed, I'll say 3-4 years ago.
Okay.
If I recall,
Did you do a contract with the fire department for those services?
we did an ordinance for a mutual aid agreement, to exchange of services.
Okay. Did you do a contract with that organization for services?
I wouldn't say we did a contract, no.
An ordinance, you cannot do an ordinance and give them money.
But the thing is you're right, and, one of the things that when we read the audit report, we have, with the Quorum court, we used to sign the receipt saying we got the audit report. No, we have to meet with the elected officials listed in the audit report, and they're to present their plan to correct the problem and prevent it from happening. We're gonna have to do that, because it's very clear, as the governing body, the elected officials cited will have to come before us, because you hit it right on the head, John. It's like I've said all along, we've been doing it so long one way, it becomes the right way. But yeah, I'm gonna go check with the fire department on I know it's just, I don't think it was a contract, but then we can get and have one prepared.
I have the OEM talking to the fire chiefs right now,
Okay.
and we're already taking steps that
Okay,
direction to
that's
set
fine.
those contracts up. Yes, sir.
Can I ask Mr. Eads?
Oh, yes, please.
So like on this one, is where it says, like a lot of these are not really accusing anybody of doing anything corrupt. It's just saying that the proper procedure wasn't followed. Like, so for example, on number 4, on the findings where it says adequate supporting documentation was not maintained for employee premium pay. With that total, we did 2 of those, correct?
Correct.
So the first one, the auditors did they deem the second one?
I don't think that was done in 2021.
Okay, so it'd be on the next audit. So we'll probably get that ding again for the
Yeah.
next one. So,
And that's a documentation issue. And here's what was expressed from the auditors, because it was just like the contract for the bookkeeping services. When they asked for a copy of the contract, no contract whatsoever was provided. It might not have been as severe if they had actually seen the contract between the library board and that official. But nothing was given to them. And it's my understanding the same holds true for the documentation on the premium pay. So knowing, and this is one of the things I told the judge, knowing that we're gonna have the federal audit over the premium pay and things along those lines, knowing that we got dinged here on the state audit, we need to be working on documentation now. So when the federal audit comes up, we've got all that paperwork in place.
What they had asked for was for why those figures were what they were. I've already answered that to them and sent them the proper numbers that they want, and we're good to go on that one.
you want to, but, I mean, if they have to pay it back, I'm not breaking the news.
No, it had nothing to pay back. It's just the way that they wanted to know how we came up with the figures that we did and the documentation that showed that across the board to those employees, and that wasn't provided to them. We've already taken care of that. Samuel Ethan Van Sickle is being appointed to the Fair Board.
Term expires in
Huh?
2024.
I did not know Samuel, but I know that he's interested in it through Linda Roseboom. We talked on the phone. But being that it's an advisory board, so we're appointing Samuel to the Fair Board. Any more announcements? I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.